Hello, and welcome to Cannabis Marketing Live, all puff, no fluff, where we bring you the boldest, brightest, and most badass tools, technologies, and minds in the cannabis and hemp CBD space. I'm Kendra Losi, and today we have with us Matt Ritchey, founder of CBD Profits. And with one of the things about why I'm bringing on Matt today is that with all of the changes in the space in the last few years, particularly this year with CBD, there have been a ton of new people entering the space, new entrepreneurs, new businesses. And one of the things that keeps coming up that I don't hear a lot about is community and really understanding who to trust and how to find those communities and then navigate the space. So I wanted to bring Matt in to talk about that and what he's doing because I think it's really interesting and I think you guys are going to love it. So with that, welcome, Matt. How are you doing today?
Thank you for having me, Kendra. I'm doing great. Thank you.
Absolutely. One of my favorite questions, because it always comes with an interesting story, is before we dive into the topic, is how did you get started in this space? And so if you could tell people a little bit about what you're doing now and how you got started, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So, CBD cannabis has been a part of my life for the last 7 to 8 years, and I've been also doing coaching, facilitating, and team building for companies outside of the CBD space. So, last fall, I actually had a daughter about 10 months ago, almost a year
Congratulations.
ago. Yeah, thank you. And I took a little time off. After that, it really just started to dive into what was fresh, what's going on right now, how can my skills and what I bring to the table really be utilized, and what's out there right now, what's kind of happening. And I had a lot of friends, tons of friends in the CBD space, and or cannabis space. So beginning of 2019, I started doing interviews, started talking to everyone I knew and friends of people I knew, just to find out what was real, what people were struggling with, what the challenges were, and yeah, I really got some really great insight because people were pretty open about what they've been challenged with and what the biggest struggles they've been having in the specifically CBD space. So I interviewed people from cannabis as well, but CBD cannabis is sort of a split road at this point, and I decided to focus on the CBD space. So in this year, I've been creating groups and community around CBD entrepreneurs and hosting events live here in San Diego. And with that, the main challenge that I see, and the reason I think you brought me on here, is the lack of community, lack of trust, and really lack of integrity of the people, not all the people, of course, but within the CBD space, there seems to be, there's kind of like two main facets, if you will. You have your old school people who've been in it a long time, maybe transitioned over from cannabis into CBD. And then you have all the people just rushing into the green rush and looking to make money and, looking for the next opportunity. And, neither of those by themselves are, bad or good, but there's people within those that aren't necessarily values aligned for people who are trying to build sustainable, long lasting businesses in the CBD space.
Absolutely. One of the things that I think is really interesting is that it takes some time to find your community, right? So there's from coming from starting in the cannabis space and then moving to also talk to people in hemp CBD, it's a very different world in a lot of ways, just in terms of the people who are in the space and then the people, as you mentioned, who are coming in. And one of the things that I've seen a lot is a lot of new entrepreneurs, and that once again, there's nothing wrong with this. Everyone has their values and their goals and their reason why they're doing everything. But I've seen a lot of people coming in with more of a profit, like specifically like dollars profit, without anything else backing that up. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, the get rich quick mentality seems to be. I mean, any new business that launches or has momentum upwards is going to have people jumping into the space strictly for money. So it's not only for CBD. So I'm not singling CBD out, but there's
Right.
definitely a lot of people who are joining the CBD space in the last 1 to 3 years now, that have come in and maybe failed already or on their way to failing because they're focused on short-term profits. They're not really focused on the customer or the whole what it takes to create a sustainable business, not only in CBD, but in any business. And of course, CBD has its unique challenges, right? From the marketing, just to the people. I mean, the people in CBD and cannabis are very different than people in other industries. So in order to, if you're coming from another industry, or if you're an entrepreneur wanting to open up into CBD, you're going to find a lot of challenges and a lot of hurdles, both in the marketing and compliance, but also mainly in the people and the the type of people that cannabis has attracted in the past, and what you can do to really stand out and attract people that are more aligned, more values aligned to your business and what you want to create for long-term sustainability.
Absolutely. And now the follow-up question is, how do you recommend that people do that?
Good question. Well, me personally, I'm a community builder. Like, I love people, I love connecting people. So that's why I started CBD Profits. CBD Profits is really going to be a hub for CBD entrepreneurs to not only, of course, connect with other like-minded CBD entrepreneurs, but I'm also hosting mastermind groups where they can also, build upon each other's ideas and really have some great feedback from people who are already in the industry. To answer your question, I think the biggest thing you can do to attract those people is to become more of that yourself, to have values aligned, have a really strong goal and vision, have focus on not only customer service, but the employee service, or the employee mentality, right? So you're not just hiring another number to come in and whether to cut leaves or to do any part of the process, right? So you really need to be careful and really be aware and present when you're hiring people, because everyone puts up a facade when they're trying to get hired, but to really get to know somebody and to really find out someone's values, you really need to be a good person, or a person who asks good questions, right? That's what I pride myself on, is I feel like I ask people good questions that helps lead to the outcomes, or the the desired information that I want to know about them.
Absolutely. And one of the things, so you've mentioned values a few times, and I know that I don't know how many entrepreneurs go through the process of actually defining their values, right? Like, I don't know about you, but I have sat in 40,000 corporate meetings about, as companies try to define their values. But from an entrepreneur in such a robust space that's moving so quickly, is that an exercise that you find most entrepreneurs that you've talked to have gone through already?
So, what I'm seeing is they're going just trial by fire. Like, they're hiring people and then they're a bad fit and they have to hire to, go to the next person. And it's mainly because of just the talent that's stepping up, right? And they're not, they're not looking in other industries. Or I think they are. People are now. Like, people are getting it. Like, after a couple of years, like, people I know who have been in the industry a couple of years, they're like, I just don't want to fill my vacancies with people, coming to me wanting to get into CBD, because those people aren't necessarily values aligned. So they're really needing to go and basically start doing what every company from Google, what everyone else does, and poach good talent, right? Get outside of your industry, or get outside of whatever your current silo is, and find the talent and find the people who are going to be values aligned and skills aligned, of course, because you need to have skills too.
By the way, we just had George Atwell just made a comment that he likes what you're saying, so keep it up. Because the focus on skills.
George.
Absolutely. Focus on skills and values are so important. Um, Go ahead. You're gonna say something?
No, go ahead. No,
Okay.
no.
One of the things, because I agree with you, because it's not just the people who you're hiring, but it's also who you're partnering with, right? So it's whether or not you're a service industry and who your clients are, it's who you're partnering with and who you're associated with. Like, how do you recommend people build those communities of and their tribe in such a new industry where everyone's going in all different directions and moving so quickly?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's really tough, because I feel like every entrepreneur I talk to, they don't have time for that. They're not going to go
Right.
out. They're not there to go build a community and do all this. They're there to run a business and have a product and a service, and that's great. And that's why I feel like what I'm creating is actually really, really needed in this space, because there is a lot of people who are looking for values aligned, like-minded people, not only to work directly with on a team, but to collaborate with, or to use, like, say, use their services or use whatever it is they're creating, such as yourself. You're doing marketing, there's probably a lot of values aligned people out there looking for, people of integrity, we'll just say, in the marketing space, in the CBD specifically, to work with. And they don't want to, and what I'm finding out is there's a lot of, I use the word integrity a lot, and that word for me just means, showing up when you say you're going to show up, keeping true to your word, not trying to go behind, someone's back when the opportunity's there, to really be in full partnership or to be in alignment with somebody in a transaction, right? Saying what you're going to do and actually doing it. So just finding a lot of people are struggling when they're in the industry. The people that are already in the industry that are maybe established or whatever, some of them are good, but some of them I've been surprised. Let's put it that way. I've been surprised by how many established people or brands in the industry that I've heard negative things about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that, I was very lucky when I got into the industry because I mentioned before we started that I went to an event in LA and I just met a absolute wonderful group of women and was able to network with them and then build from there. So really starting to be able to create that community. But we both live in California, so it's a little bit different than, CBD entrepreneurs who might be in a state where it's not as welcome. It's people don't talk about it openly. It's still considered taboo or, associated with the effects of stereotypes. And so what recommendations do you have for people that might not have a local community to tap into?
Yeah, that's tough because I've actually been communicating with a lot of people outside of our bubble here in Southern California, Texas, Florida. I mean, really kind of all over the U.S. now. It's kind of bubbling up. And what I'm hearing and what I'm gaining from people is that certain people have time to, like, say, maybe host a meetup or do something that they can attract an event where they can pull in those types of people that could respond to that type of invitation. But in general, they're just doing it virtually. And that's one of the reasons what I'm doing is both in person and virtual, because of course I believe in human connection and getting face to face and doing some great work. But also I know that not everyone lives in Southern California and not everyone has a tribe local that they can do that with. So you need to have some sort of tribe and whatever. So in order to do that, I think virtual is the first step. I think long term I have a vision that I can be bringing CBD Profits mastermind groups and local meetups throughout the country, in 5 to 10 years, when, like, say, if we're very lucky here in California, it's very liberal, it's very open, people don't have the stigma around it. But I'm talking to people in Texas, people in these other states where it's just not the case, and there's just not the openness and willingness to talk about it.
Absolutely. And even honestly, other countries. I was talking to several people when I was recently at VidCon, and I had people schedule meetings with me. This woman from Romania scheduled a meeting with me specifically because she was so fascinated, because it's CBD cannabis, it's all lumped into one there. And she was saying that there's such a strong stigma about it that she was fascinated to meet, the one person at the conference who had cannabis and CBD on their profile. To talk about why I was doing what I was doing and what it's like here, and for entrepreneurs and businesses in this space. So yeah, it's fascinating
Yeah,
because
and
I
I'll be
don't.
honest, I think I've seen a lot more. Yeah, I've seen a lot more community in the women's side of it. Women generally are more community oriented. So what I'm noticing is women in cannabis is actually getting to be quite, there's starting to be some groups and some niching there where the men, they're more lone wolves. It seems like most of the men don't want to, give away secrets or do something maybe that they're just unsure of, right? So women, very open to change, love community, sharing ideas. I want to bring sort of that mentality into, not just men, of course, but to all people within CBD, because I feel like, we'll talk to the men out there. If you guys are not doing this type of things, women are going to be taken over, and nothing wrong with that. But if you're a man out there with a CBD business, hey, you don't want to lose your stuff, right? So you got to step up and meet the women where they're at, in the sense of there's going to be great CBD cannabis communities for women, and there already are. I mean, they're going to be big here in the next 3 to 5 years, and I think men are going to be left behind if they don't do the same.
Well, and there's different ways to look at it, right? Different skill sets and different ways to look at it. But the women in cannabis and CBD groups that I'm in are definitely a lot more active. And what I see is a lot more collaboration, honestly. So when I go to the groups that are, you can tell which groups are driven by men. And this is not, I'm completely stereotyping here for a second. So bear with me because it's not something I prefer to do. But it's definitely more business. How do I get here? How do I get my funnel building this out? How do I drop sheet? Like, a very, very tactical, help me solve my problem questions. Whereas
Mhm.
if I'm currently scheduling live interviews for a show that I'm doing inside a women in CBD group that I manage. And not a day goes by where it's how can I help you? How can I support you? And it's very much the rising tide lifts all ships mentality, which is very, very, very different between the two. And I think that
100%. Yeah, I'm with you.
yeah. Sorry, I thought you were going to continue with that.
Sorry, I'm getting a little bit of a lag on my end. I wasn't sure if you were continuing.
No.
Yeah, I've definitely seen the same. Like, say, not that, women are the only ones, but it seems like they're just more open, and not just in CBD. I've been working with all sorts of industries within teams and, executive coaching, and women in general, just more open to feedback, more open to criticism, more open to learning and expanding, as opposed to men. I don't know what it is about us and our fixed mentality. Sometimes we just, we have a goal in sight and we just kind of keep pushing through, keep grinding, right? That's the word people use, which kind of leads me to that. What I think is the second biggest challenge and biggest thing going on in the industry, which is like burnout. People just pushing, and any new industry is going to have that sort of, hustle and grind, sort of like, this is a startup. This is sort of like, just beginnings. I want to get in, and I get all of that. And that's going to be there. But the men, and I've been talking to a lot of both men and women, but the men specifically, they're burning out. They're really, really challenged by, I think they need to take their own product, to be honest, to get some relief. But it just seems like there's a ton of stress and a ton of overwork in the CBD space. And that's one of the things I want to address as well, being my background is in, efficiency, mindset, all these things that help us, operate more efficiently and more at a peak performance that they're just not doing. They're not taking care of themselves, and they're like, say, you're burning the candle at both ends, so to speak. And there's just a lot of challenges that I see that long term that are going to happen for certain people in the industry.
No, absolutely. And it's funny because I myself am guilty of that. So on these,
every entrepreneur is from time to time, right? We've all done it.
Right, absolutely. So on that topic, what tips would you give to somebody who is who's finding themselves nearing that burnout cycle, right? Because it's such a hard thing to maintain that level of grind and that level of work required, because it's new. Everyone wants to be in, everyone wants to get in, and everyone wants to be everywhere. What advice do you have for entrepreneurs, and specifically in CBD, besides take your own stuff, to help them with that?
Yeah, a couple things. So first and foremost, and the thing I'm actually lacking at this moment is sleep. So like I flew overnight last night, only got about 2 hours of sleep, but most people are just not sleeping. And I'm just going to put this out there. This might be a little taboo, but cannabis, and most of the people in CBD are using full cannabis, THC cannabis every day, sometimes all day, right?
Yeah.
And it's affecting sleep. I know, I've been there, I've done it, and it affects your sleep if you're not careful with how you use it, when you use it, and all these things. I think one of the main things is for anybody, but specifically in CBD, is sleep. They're just not sleeping. They're not getting the quality of sleep that they need to have. So obviously that would be the first place I would start with anyone's like, hey, like you need to rest. Like it's absolutely critical for you to be a high functioning, efficient person. You have to rest. And men don't like to hear that, right? Like sleep when you're dead, all these different things that we've created that it's just silly. And we realize, hopefully at one point you're going to realize that it's not sustainable. So sleep would be the first thing. And second thing, which helped me and has helped every person I've worked with, is mindfulness. So you could say meditation, you could say, yoga, but any type of mindfulness where you're giving your time, or you're giving your brain time to basically shut off and not have to work and not have to think and not have to be or do anything. Just giving yourself that space to kind of like breathe. And that sounds silly and it sounds trivial, but it's huge. I don't know. Are you a meditator, Kendra?
Sorry, I just had you on the screen. I think I'm mentally checking off the boxes because just in the past few weeks I've gotten back to yoga and working out. Sleep is still something I don't do, but I'm working on it. So I'm mentally checking the boxes as you go through it. But I do notice a difference. So I've been going to yoga now for the last 3 weeks, and I even just in that short time period of taking that time, even just if it's a couple minutes at the end of class, to just silence everything. And it is making a big difference in how I'm approaching what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think that's common misconceptions that you have to go do an hour yoga class, or you have to sit and meditate for 20 or 30 minutes or whatever. You don't have to do anything. Like yoga or meditation can look a lot of ways. You could go for a run, and you can sit and do nothing. That's a great way to do it. But even if you're doing that, if you just do it in small increments, you take 5 minutes in the morning, take 5 minutes in the afternoon, take 1 minute breaks. Like before we got on this call, I did one of my 3 minute meditations. So before you're doing things, we think we're busy and we're like, go, 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 but we have time. We have a minute here. We can throw a minute here. Mm-hmm. And if you do that, if you scatter those throughout your day, total game changer, complete and total game changer, because you're going to be, not only are you going to be more focused and whatever, but you're just going to be more present with people, and people are going to notice that. You're going to be like, okay, this guy feels like he's actually listening to me, not just ready to respond or thinking about his next thing he has to do or whatever.
It's absolutely true. And it's funny because I never realized how much I used active meditation in my workouts until I stopped doing it. So I don't know if you can see it. One of the little things over on my bookcase, my shelf over here, is my little medal from my outrigger canoe from the first race I did. And,
nice.
Years of being on the water, it was that active meditation that I didn't realize the value of it until I stopped to start my business. And so it's one of those things where I'm totally guilty of all these things that you're saying. But do you have so for meditation and mindfulness, is there an app that you recommend? Are there any tools that you recommend, or just sit and be quiet and focus on breathing?
Yeah, to be completely honest, I don't use an app.
Okay.
I use a device called the Inner Balance from HeartMath. It's a company we work with, and they have great technology. You hook it up to your ear, and it basically manages your heart rate and your heart rate variability, which is basically the rate in which you're living, right? Your being, this homeostasis of your body. So they call it coherence, and that's basically like a peak state for your body, to where your mind and your body and everything is just like present and like open is a good word. So I'm not a big, I like apps, but I don't think you have to use an app. It's really just about consistency. Now, sure, an app can help you be more consistent, give you reminders and all that. And there's tons of out there. You should go on the App Store and find a meditation one that suits you. But I don't really recommend doing an app. I just recommend just being consistent, just fucking committing to it and doing it every day. Write it down on a piece of paper. You can do an app. It doesn't matter. Like, that's not really going to be the game changer. The game changer is the choice and the decision to do it. So I don't really use, like, say, personally, any apps. For me, meditation is just a presence. Like, I have my breath. I've done transcendental meditation. I've done all sorts of meditations practices over the last 8-9 years now. And I don't know if you know who Bruce Lee is, but I kind of do Bruce Lee, where I just kind of bring in certain things from each one, and I just kind of practice different things or try different things. But for that specific one, you want to be just present. There's really no thinking. There's no certain meditations are more creative bound or more, getting information to channel through you. But in general, if you're going to meditate, just once a day, like, I would highly recommend just doing like a presence meditation. Because, like I say, for me, I started meditating January 2012. So it's been just over 7 years now. And total game changer, like complete game changer. For anyone who's never meditated, I highly, highly recommend doing a 30-day, just do a 1 month where you meditate for, every day, but start incrementally up. Like, start the first day with a minute, 2 minutes, whatever, just keep going up. 20 minutes is a good plateau or a good place to hit. If you can do more, great, but you don't need to do more than 20 minutes a day, in my experience.
It's really good. And it's good advice too. So you mentioned sleep, and you mentioned mindfulness and meditation. Is there any other tips to help avoiding burnout and stress for everyone who's in the craziness of getting to where they want to be with CBD?
I think the best, or the next best effective one, is your intake, what your food intake is and all that stuff. But that's not necessarily my expertise, if you will. I know me and I do me, because I say practice on yourself, like foods, sleep patterns, all these different things, whatever works. But for what I do and what I think would help a lot of people is being surrounded by people and a team that you can really count on. Because if you had a team of people that you trusted, that you knew were going to show up, full integrity, how much stress would that really take off of you? How much would you really not have to meditate, maybe, if you were in that kind of space? So that would be my number 3 suggestion, would be to surround yourself with like-minded, values-aligned, integritous people who, all over your life would be great, but specifically in your company, your business, so that you can, do that well as well and generate revenue, so you can complete that cycle of not feeling stress. or
Absolutely.
feeling not feeling stressed. We're all feeling stress from time to time. It's just how much stress you have, and then it's about whenever you're feeling stressed, is like how do I deal with it, right? And that's where the 1 minute meditations come in, or some people do mantras or things like that. But really, just surrounding yourself around a lot of good people would help a lot of that
Makes it
negative, stressful energy.
it makes a big difference, and it really helps when it comes to, I find, navigating the complexities and the changes in the industry, right? So when you look at,
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead, take it.
yeah, I mean, if you're stressed out and all these things, and then think about it, when you're in a stressful position, anything change or anything different is kind of like, oh, I gotta do something. I have to do something outside of my normal mode, right? So when that happens, and here's the thing, in CBD, it happens a lot. When that happens, then your stress levels peak or spike, right? So in the CBD space, you have to kind of be ready for that. You have to be assuming that there's going to be those stressful peaks, right? So, I think that having, great sleep, of course, eating good foods, and exercise, those are all things that I think are baseline to be a good human, to be a, successful
Yeah,
human, if you will. And you throw some meditation in there and you start surrounding yourself with people who are like-minded and all that stuff, then you're going to have a pretty cool, I think, formula for, not only being a good human, but also attracting an amazing business that's sustainable and, produces revenue for whatever it is you're creating.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing. I literally set a reminder to remind myself to eat because I forget all the time. And I at lunch today, I skipped lunch. Well, I worked out this morning, didn't eat breakfast, wasn't eating lunch, and my alarm went off, and I was like, how am I failing at being like human essentials? I'm failing at right now. So when you
Well,
said that, I was like, did you read my notes I made?
I'm very tuned in. What can I say?
Apparently,
Um,
apparently.
No,
No.
that's interesting though. I do intermittent fasting. So just a really quick aside to that, I do intermittent fasting,
Hmm.
and I don't eat from basically I eat from noon to 8, and then I fast
Yeah.
all morning. And I've found that to be actually extremely, extremely helpful. Both being I'm a morning person, so when I want to wake up, I just drink tons of water. And actually after the first week, I have more focus, more energy, everything after just 1 week of intermittent fasting. I've been doing it for probably about 4 months right now. I've done it in the past, but I got back on it after I gained a couple pounds baby weight from having, the baby lifestyle, and
Yeah.
I just want to jumpstart my weight loss, if you will.
I'm an accidental intermittent faster. It just happens.
Well,
It's not on purpose, but
maybe
I
maybe it
do
works
do
for you,
that.
maybe it doesn't, but everyone's a little different. I would say, like anything else, play with it, see what
Yeah.
works for you. See if I know other people who have to eat in the morning, so they eat till about 4 p.m. and then they just fast in the evening. So whatever works for you. There's no right or wrong. That's the thing I love about what I do, and a lot of things that we bring is like it's just really about trial and error. I don't have all the magic answers. I have the answers that have worked for me. And I have some insight into what's worked for other people that I've worked with, but in general, everyone's a little different. So my exact program isn't going to work for you, and your exact program is going to work for anyone else.
Right. Exactly. Um, but so I wanted to touch on, you mentioned the stress of and how to navigate that. Let me take us back a little bit, especially in the industry. And I think that that's something that I notice a lot of, right? So just even in the group I'm in, a woman posted that MailChimp shut down her email, and she was, trying to recover her list, but they shut down everything. So all the work that they had put into their email funnel system and everything they did got shut down. Um, and within, I would say, 24 hours, she had 36 comments on her post. So it was very much community. Here's what's working for me. Here's how you can do it. Here's how I approached them. So it's something that goes back to everything that you're saying in terms of the importance of finding that community that can help you build up those answers. And when stressful situations happen, we each deal with them differently, but at the same time, it's so important to have one, be healthy enough to have a clear focus to be able to understand how to, move forward and deal with it, but also knowing where you can turn to as well. And I know that's all of that's how you help people. So I want to talk a little bit more about CBD Profits, and then you had something that you wanted to promote as well. So I want to give you that opportunity too. So can you
Cool.
take
Yeah.
it away?
So So, you're right. Every day I'm on a bunch of CBD Facebook groups, and every day someone's getting shut down. There's compliance that's changing. There's new words you're not allowed to use on labeling. There's all these things, right? And like it goes back to before, you almost have to expect that spike of stress, right?
Yep.
And kind of like your eating routine, most people don't have that planned in, right? Something that we're just doing reactively, right? And it's just something that we, once it happens, then we have to fix it, right? We have to do something different or change, right? So the best way to do is to plan forward and obviously set things in future motion that can help us down the line. I always love to say I'm always doing this for future Matt, because future Matt's going to love when I do this for him. Present Matt may love like the great cake or something I'm eating, but future Matt's going to love, the salad and the things that are really healthy and make me feel good. So with that said, of course, taking care of your temple, your body, we talked about a lot of that. I think showing up as your best self in empowered and, high efficiency, high performer is the number one thing. Excuse me. But then after that is building a schedule or building a system, if you will, around how to deal with challenges that are arising. So whether that be people on your team that you have, which is cool, which could be great. But I think most of the people I'm talking to out there are either solopreneurs or just have like a very small team of virtual people that they, either just talk to when there's something wrong, or they just, just talking business, right? Mm-hmm. So what I would recommend, of course, is what I'm creating is CBD Profits and community, where you can have those sounding boards. So, part of our group, we have people who, like, I'm not in the compliance space, right? But we have great people who know everything about compliance. So I'm not in the the brick and mortar, CBD sales, but we have people who are great and do that. That's what they do. I'm not currently a marketer. I have been in the past, but I'm not currently a marketer in the CBD space. But, we have people in our group here that are the best, or some of the best. I don't want to, with the current marketer here, I don't want to put your skills against each other, but they're good.
Careful there. Oh, wait, is there something wrong with my broadcast? I just lost Matt. No, I'm just kidding.
So the idea that I'm creating, and the idea that I think resonates with a lot of these people that I'm meeting in the CBD space, is that they can have that. I use the word community, but really just have those people that they can turn to, and they can say, hey, I'm going to put this on my packaging. Does that sound good? Or is that FDA compliant? And we have this one guy, he knows everything. And he just boom, he's like, nope, you got to change this. You can't have that. And it'll be perfect. And it's like, okay. But if you didn't know that, and you print out 50,000 labels or whatever, oh my God, and then you get a call from, or a letter from the DEA, or not DEA, the FDA, saying that you're out of compliance, well, then you're kind of screwed, then you're under the microscope, so to speak. So I think the biggest thing is planning ahead with people, of course, planning yourself, planning the people you have, and then planning the systems in order to, be in full compliance, be in full, motion forward, because they're always changing too, right? You could be in compliance today, but you may not be in compliance next week or month. So obviously, whether you're doing that research on staying in compliance, or you have someone on your team or someone in your community or your circle that knows that, is super, super important. And the group that I've put together, I've already seen some really great collaborative efforts, both working together on projects, but also just feedback and masterminding around ideas and just the little things. Even we take so many things for granted, but there's so many little details that if you've done them, maybe you don't even think about them. But if you're just starting, or if you're just trying to scale to the next level, there's tons of little details that will totally slip through the cracks if you don't have people or systems in place to catch those systems, if you will, catch those cracks.
Absolutely.
So the CBD Profits group is really about that. It's really about connecting people, creating synergy and collaborative opportunities, circling and having mastermind opportunities, and then really just, one of the main things I bring to the table as the facilitator and the leader of the group is how can you, be your best human self in this space as a CBD entrepreneur. And like I say, there's a lot of people who are being successful on the business side, but are very, very unsuccessful on the human side right now. And I'm seeing that. It makes me a little bit sad, because I see the pain and the struggle that people go through, and that they've put all this energy into building this brand. And, whether it be CBD or any other industry, there's just people that are putting literally their whole life into a business, and, their health is failing them, and they're not going to be here long-term sustainability wise to, reap the benefits of what they're creating. And I think that's just, for me, it's a little sad, because well, what if you didn't have to choose? Because a lot of people are like, well, if I don't do this, I won't be successful. And it's like, well, That's one mindset. You could believe that, but that doesn't have to be true. It is more true that is more true if you are alone, if you're a solopreneur, if you don't have a sounding board, if you don't have a community, if you don't have any of these things. Yeah, it's probably gonna have to work 40, or you're gonna have to work 20 hours a day, and not take off any days a week, and
Yeah,
do that for a long period of time before you find any kind of real success. And at the end of that, where are you at? Your health is failing, maybe your marriage, your partnerships are bad, all these things that we don't notice as a side effect until it's too late.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm going to switch the screen so that your LinkedIn is below. And I think you said, is your website ready to go to? Because I don't have
Sure.
the
Yeah.
URL, but I want to make sure that you share that with everybody. So it's just you now with your LinkedIn. If you guys want to get a hold of Matt, his LinkedIn is below him right now. It's at Matt Ritchey. Um, and what is your URL too, so people can find you?
Yeah. www.cbd-profits, Prophets.com.
Do not use the wrong spelling of profits like I did, and I apologize again.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, most people, when they hear the word profits, what do you go to? You go to money, right? Your mind goes
Yep.
to, oh, we're making a profit. And of course, I want to kind of play off that a little bit, because I feel like the people that I'm attracting and the people who I want to work with, they're more than just about making money. They're about being a wizard in the space, where they can work less hours and make more money, and do all these things that people outside that are grinding and doing it alone, they can't get to, or they don't think it's possible.
And CBD
So,
Wizard was taken.
I'm sorry.
And CBD Wizard was taken.
I don't
Just
know. I didn't
kidding.
look up Wizard, but
I
I like
just
that
took
too.
it.
Um,
No, it's a really clever name. I like it.
yeah,
And so if you
thank you.
go to a site, there is a download available as well, I believe.
Yeah. There's a free download there, and that's going to be for people who are just getting into the CBD space, or maybe thinking about getting into the CBD space. If you're a hardened veteran in the CBD space, you may not get a ton out of it, but you're gonna either way, you're gonna get it connected to me and the community of people that I've cultivated. I think that's the real value. Of course, there's value in I spent a good bit of time in creating that free PDF that you'll get there, but in general, the people and the feedback that you'll eventually get from being a part of our group is the main value that I think we provide as CBD Profits.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. I have a few questions. Do you feel like doing a quick speed round?
Do it.
All right, ready? I need to figure out how to put a timer on the screen, which I
Yeah.
will work on. But we're going to pretend there's a timer on the screen. Okay, first of all, sorry about dog barking. First of all, what are your favorite CBD products?
Oh, good question. I'm not going to throw out any brands right now, because I feel like I'm working, I know a lot of people have a really, really, honestly, amazingly good CBD brands, but I like full spectrum. So you
Mm-hmm.
definitely want to use the full spectrum of cannabinoids. The isolate just doesn't nearly work as well. Of course, if you have a potential fear around getting tested or something like that, then
Tested,
that's a whole
yeah.
other question. But if you don't, and you want to have the full effects of CBD without the psychoactive effects of full cannabis, a full spectrum is absolutely the way to go. Make sure you do water soluble, or there's a lot of bad ways that people are doing CBD. So like a water soluble full spectrum is my recommendation.
Absolutely. Um, what networking have you been to many networking or events that you have found helpful or beneficial that you'd recommend?
Well, as far as cannabis or CBD, there's not
Both,
much out there.
either?
Like I've gone to small events here and there, and honestly, what I see a lot in the CBD space specifically is like the MLM network marketing stuff that's out there. And nothing wrong with that. If you're doing that, that's cool. But in general, like a lot of the meetings and meetups I see are around that specifically. So
Gotcha.
unless you're gonna get into that space and like be a part of another company, there's not a lot of real groups that are doing anything here in California, here in San Diego, at least I should say. But yeah, I mean, the CBD Profit, that's one of the reasons I created, because there's really no one meeting regularly that has any type of community around in the CBD space. Full cannabis, I think it's CCEA here in San
Yeah.
Diego. I don't know what it stands for. CCEA is the thing that always comes up in my thing. They do monthly events. I've been
Yeah.
to one of those. They're okay. I mean, shout out to them. I hope they're doing well, but it wasn't the crowd that I was looking for sure.
Gotcha. Any books or publications? Sorry if you guys can hear the dog barking in the background. We almost made it all the way through without dog barking. Any books, publications, podcasts that you find that you like that you'd recommend?
Oh, That's a good question. In the CBD cannabis space, I'm going to go outside the CBD cannabis space for this one. A good friend of mine hosts a podcast called Wellness Force. And I think you get, people here, if you're listening to me and like what I've spoken about today here, I think you get a lot of value out of what Josh Trent talks about on Wellness Force. He talks about, sleep, of course, and then just, hacking your system so you can be a better human, to be a better entrepreneur in whatever business you're in, whether it's CBD or otherwise. And then as far as, groups or anything like that, shout out to Matt Seibert. He's been a good connection of mine for the last 7 months here in the CBD space. He's an OG. He's been in it forever. And, he has a group, CBD Business Success, here on Facebook that is really, really helpful and has a lot of really great players in it. A lot of people who are actually part of my group of CBD Profits.
Awesome. And Megan Powers, my friend, just jumped on and said if you need any help, she produces events. So if you need any help with an event, she's here. And a fan. Oh, we just lost Matt's connection. Okay, all right. So we just lost Matt's connection. I don't know if you had a chance to see. I'll be sure and put his contact information in the bottom of the screen. If you guys have any questions, feel free to jump into the comments and type out your questions. Matt and I will get back to you. You can find him on LinkedIn, Matt Ritchey. And the one last thing, I just need to address it because it came up in the comments. Stephanie liked my T-Rex, which is totally off topic, but it is supposed to have a plant in it, and it's from Austin, and it is my favorite thing ever. And he always lives on or by my desk. So that's Mr. T-Rex. Thank you guys for joining us. Be sure and put in the comments if you have any questions. If you're watching the replay, let us know. And we will see you next week. I have Lily Kanainen. I always screw Lily with her last name. Kanainen. Here to talk about branding, packaging, and all things cannabis and CBD. And have a great rest of your day, guys. Thank you for joining us. Bye.